years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the GabNet Tour bus. Today our tour will take us up and around the newly designed GabNet.net webpage. For your safety, please stay seated while the bus is in motion and enjoy your trip. Also, remember that tipping your tour guide is greatly appreciated. Okay, we're off. The first place of interest that we're going to pass on the top left, you'll see a rotating billboard of all of the great GabNet programs. Legend has it that legendary broadcaster Alex Bennett created this billboard to attract early visitors to GabNet and to lure them into his site. To this day, it's one of the top attractions on our tour. Up next, look over at the top right and you'll see the most recent video of Alex Bennett's Ramble. And if you're lucky enough, we'll see Alex interacting with the citizen panel. Always a tour highlight. Did I mention that tipping your tour guide is greatly appreciated? As we approach the bottom of the Ramble video, we see quick links to all the ways that you can connect with GabNet programs. Facebook Live, YouTube, TuneIn, Livestream, Vimeo, and the GabNet Roku channel. They're all additional stops that you can make if you choose to step off the bus. But remember, please tip your tour guide if you do, and then you can hop on the next bus. Here's another highlight on our tour. On the left side, you'll see GabNet On Demand. You can quickly access any of the most recent programs there. Clearly, a value spot on our tour because downloads are at no extra cost. Please give your attention now to the right side. Look at the complete tutorial on how easy it is to become a citizen panelist. By the way, if you're a Luddite, there's a phone number that you can use to dial in. Okay, we're nearing the halfway point on our trip. I certainly hope that you're enjoying it. Oh, look, there's the convenient call Skype button that you can click on, which will automatically connect you to the citizen panel. So now we're turning down the center of the page. I don't want you to miss any of these attractions, so please pay attention. Up first is a link to the 24/7 feed. Now these are going to come fast and furious, so pay attention. Next is a quick note on how you can hear GabNet on Amazon Echo. Next, quickly coming behind that, and this is always exciting, a screen that shows Alex Bennett's Ramble when it is live, with a countdown to the next show. It's always fun when we pass and the show is live. We're winding down our tour of GabNet.net, but before we reach our final stop, it's important to note that there is a place for you to contact them with your comments. Let them know how you like GabNet.net and the GabNet programming. And with that, we wrap up our tour. Remember, as you step off the bus, to please be careful. And also remember that GabNet is talk like you've never heard or seen it before. Did I mention, please tip your tour guide?
Reasons why you tune into GabNet. Reason number 29, the Citizen Panel.
I'm saying that a good lawyer might be able to make a case that he cannot get a fair trial anywhere in the United States because the President of the United States said, quote, he should be executed. And if you can't find a fair jury anywhere in this country because they've all been exposed to this.
No, he'll never go to trial if he's treated as an enemy combatant.
He's not being treated as an enemy combatant, Phil.
He's basically a citizen. He has a green card. He has all the rights that a citizen of the United States has because he has a green card. Either you want to follow the Constitution of the United States or not. Go to Russia if you don't want to follow the rules.
He said that he did this for ISIS. He had a note in his thing. He had phone calls on his cell phone, and he says that he did it for ISIS. Therefore,
okay, so Phil, if you did that, you should be able to be treated as enemy combatant.
I think so.
GabNet. Reasons to listen every day. Log on to GabNet.net for more. GabNet. It's talk like you've never heard it before. Five years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is The Ramble, and I am Alex Bennett, your humble and obedient host. I will be here until midnight tonight, Eastern Daylight Time. We'll have our citizens panel in just about 30 minutes from right now. But we're going to go out to the other coast of the United States, and we're going to talk to one of our favorite people, and he's got a cat. Ladies and gentlemen, there's our guest for tonight. Which one is that? Eloise?
Eloise, very good.
Eloise, I'm getting good at recognizing your cat.
My cats, yes.
Yeah. She just wants to keep her tail in the picture, that's all. And they have more tail. They always know when something's, facing them, right? When the camera's on.
She does know when the camera's on.
Yeah. How you doing today, Will Durst?
I'm good. How's it going, Alex Bennett?
I've been going through a little sicky thing. I think it's. I went to the doctor. He thinks it's pollen.
Pollen?
Yeah, it's like affecting my throat, and I have a little slight feel like I have to cough. And
keep the windows closed.
They always know when some. I can't do that. You know why? Because my wife. She doesn't want to do that. So,
okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So I've got. She likes to have the windows open, and I've been told if it's pollen season and you want to keep the pollen out, keep the windows fucking closed. But she Yeah. So she doesn't care if I'm wheezing, if I'm dizzy, if I've got all this stuff. Like I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor yesterday. I went to one of these clinics, one of these walk-in places the other day, and he tested me out, and he checked my heart, did an EKG, and found that there was something wrong with it. Well, there always is something wrong with my EKG because I have a bundle or something that. I have a slight murmur.
Some sort of arrhythmia?
No. It's a heart murmur. Okay, it's a aortic stenosis. But so I went to my other doctor yesterday, and he's a cardiologist, and he gave me an echocardiogram and said, "Hey, your aorta is a little more clogged, but not." He says, if it keeps going at this rate, you'll be dead of something else before. And I said, do you have to say that? Do you have to say I'll be dead? He said, I know it's a little morbid, but you're not going to die from this aortic stenosis. So he said, I can't find anything wrong with you, so it's probably the allergies. It's probably the pollen. Because supposedly pollen is just running rampant this year. Just horrible.
Do you have air conditioning?
Yes. I don't care unless I have the air conditioner on all the time, which isn't necessary. She wants the window open. I'm going to have
obvious answer.
I think a divorce.
And an obvious obstacle.
I think a divorce is the answer. Yes, of course, there's an obvious answer to all of this. At least it will minimize it. But the pollen just keeps wafting into the house. So,
can't you make her a deal like a week on and a week off?
No. In this house, it's her way or the highway.
Hey,
everything has to be done just right. The bed has to be made in a certain way. I mean, quite frankly, when I wasn't married, I never made the bed.
I would straighten it.
I would straighten it a little bit, if I got too much food on the sheets, I'd change them.
You and Marilyn Monroe, apparently.
Well, I used to eat on the bed. I used to I had this was in New York, I had a tarp I would throw down on top of the bed, and we'd sit there and eat on the bed. I didn't have a dining room table.
And then you would hose the tarp off?
If it got bad, we'd hose the tarp off, yeah, and then, And plus, it was convenient because usually I was having dinner with a date, and there was very little places we had to go after dinner, but right under the sheets. So it was
really cut down on the commute.
When they came over, I would make the bed. Yeah.
And the tarp.
And I'd wash the tarp in their honor. Yeah. If my wife is listening right now, she's probably going apoplectic, okay? because the whole idea of eating in bed, that's another thing I've heard. Don't eat in bed. You're going to get crumbs in the bed. I don't care. I'll vacuum the bed. That's what I used to do. You know. When's the last time you ever vacuumed the bed? Vacuum the bed.
We have popcorn in bed, and I always have to get out the towel and wipe the salt out of the bed.
Well, we have one of those hand vacs, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to do it for me. Never had this problem with other wives, just this one. You know. And, of course...
Yeah, they get set in their ways down the line.
Also, you know, what's interesting is I had asthma as a kid, and it seems like it's back again, actually, somewhat. Not actual asthma, but being allergic to stuff. For a while, when I moved to New York years ago, I lost all those allergies. And then when I went back to California, I didn't seem to have them.
Oh.
And then I came back to New York, and now I seem to be getting these allergies again. So, you know, what the hell.
A, B, B, A. Yeah.
So much about my health. How's your health?
Knock on wood, not good for Micah. Everything's good so far.
Yeah.
I get tired faster, but...
I'm tired all the time. What do you mean?
I can always, as long as I can stand up and do a 90-minute show, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But if I know I'm going to do a show that night...
Yeah, you have to get a nap.
I can't go to the museum during the day.
Oh, I see. Okay. You can't do anything that takes energy.
Museums are what lose out.
Well, you're how old now? You're 95, something like that. What? How old are you?
Something like that. Yeah, 95 minus 20, 28.
No, you're 65 or something like that, around
67, yeah.
67.
And you're 70.
I'm 79. So you can only imagine how tired
you
can imagine how tired I get.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Do you take a nap every day?
No. But then I do the show at night, and I do coffee. And about an hour in, it used to be I could do the 2 hours standing on my head. Now an hour in, I'm starting to get drowsy. So, you know.
But you can sleep at night after drinking coffee?
Yeah, because I get drowsy. No, sometimes I have to take something like a Xanax or lately I've decided I'll take Benadryl. That puts me to sleep, you know.
No idea what any of those are.
Benadryl is a decongestant antihistamine.
Oh. And
antihistamines are good because they're not going to kill you. You could, you know, you just dry up and turn into powder. I don't know, you know.
Dry up.
Yeah, dry up. Yeah. So anyway, how's business? He's a comic and he does comedy stuff.
I do the funny comedy humor thing, and get a gig. Had a gig on Sunday and Father's Day. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote all this new material, and I want to unveil it at the Punchline. I'm going to be at the Punchline a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm busy rehearsing it, and I go off, and this is my new set right here.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 pages, and I got most of it out on Sunday, and I got a gig Thursday and Friday, so hopefully I can. Yeah. That's the hard part.
Every comedian, it's interesting. Every comedian works differently. You write it all out, right?
Yeah, I need a script.
You have a script. Other comedians have the jokes, they know what they are, and then they just go up and start doing the act. There are some who never write them down.
No.
You know?
Those guys have funny bones. I don't have funny bones.
I don't know.
I'm a writer who performs.
Slayton has funny bones, but I've seen him with his notes. You know, because I think it has something to do. Doesn't it have something to do with remembering the joke too? That if you just made it up and said, "I'll put that in the act," and you didn't write it down, you'd forget it.
Everybody's different, as you say. I am very dependent on the words.
Yeah. Well, your whole show is precise about words and the order in which they come and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're working the Punchline. The Punchline's closing down, right?
Man, it's such a mish. Yeah, we have no idea because we've heard different things. First, we heard that the landlord, which is Morgan Stanley, owns the building. The landlord was going to sell that building and the building next to it, which used to be the old Waldorf, going to sell that and the Alcoa building, which is across that the whole thing was going to be sold to Google. And then we had this huge NATO Green put together a protest and city steps, and Aaron Peskin and Dave Chappelle came down to give it some publicity. And then Google was reached by one of the TV stations and said, we are looking forward to having the Punchline as our neighbor. So then it kind of seemed that Morgan Stanley was using Google as a Judas goat so that they didn't have to take the weight, and because everybody in town here is so used to blaming Google for everything,
right?
Just fit another thing, and so then Google
because the rumor
said no, it's not us.
The rumor running
Morgan Stanley shut up, won't talk to anybody, and Punchline still, and Aaron Peskin put through a temporary zoning restriction so that space of the Punchline can only be used for entertainment.
Wow.
So we have no idea what Morgan Stanley or Google, we have no idea. I'll find out next week.
Well, the rumor running around was that Google wanted to turn it into a gym for their people. You heard that one, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it may not close down then.
And we don't know. And they're talking about the beginning of August or the end of August. Yeah. All I know is August was mentioned.
Let's tell people about the Punchline. It's a club that's been there for how many years now?
Since I think 1978. I think 41.
Yeah, 41 years. 1978, I got to San Francisco in late 79. Came back to San Francisco, late 79. So it was in operation when I was there. So, and
it's the perfect size. It's
a perfect
140, club. I think, after the fire restrictions. It used to be 160, 180, but they had to take the seats along that one wall there by the front door.
Yeah.
Because the fire marshals came in.
It's perfect because
the floor is parquet, and the walls are all brick, real brick, not phony brick, but real brick.
Yeah.
And then they got this beautiful mural in front. But the laughs bounce off that parquet and off the brick. And the audiences think they're having a much better time than they actually are.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about brick walls, comedy clubs by law have to have a brick wall.
No, it works out acoustically.
No. But here's what I'm saying. It seems as though every club, even if it isn't a real brick wall, has a phony brick wall.
Yeah, it does.
Clubs. In fact,
and there was a reason for it, and then they started putting up these plastic replicas.
Well, no, here's what happened in Florida. When I was down in Florida, there was this comedy promoter who did comedy at various venues around town during the week, and he literally had a portable brick wall that went to each of the clubs. So here we are in front of our brick wall doing comedy.
Yeah, it became a signifier.
I think that was the who was it? What's the club? The big club that was in New York and then went to L.A.
Catch Rising Star?
Huh? No, the other one.
Improv.
I think because the Improv on A&E did their shows, and there was a brick wall there. Everybody felt they had to have a brick wall.
I think
that's my
brick
theory.
Wall started earlier,
yeah,
than the Improv. Yeah.
But anyway, the Punchline is a very perfect intimate club.
Yeah, it's a civic jewel.
Yeah, and it's continued to make money. It's not going broke, right?
I don't know. All I know is I make the same amount of money headlining as I did my first week there of headlining, which was 1980. When did I win the comedy competition? 83, 84.
I don't know.
Anyhow, I got a headlining week after I won the comedy competition. And I'm making, so 34 years later, I'm still making the same money.
Well, technically they're paying less.
Oh yeah, because the door, went up from $10 if it was $10, and now it's like 25.
Yeah, but most of those clubs don't actually charge at the door because they have these twofers they hand out around town, so that people come into the club. It's like you get two tickets, come on in for free. Now here are the drinks; they're $40 a piece.
Yeah. And Gold Star and Groupon and marketing is totally different.
Yeah. But it would be sad if the punchline went away, only because it just represents something. And
they've had an open mic every Sunday since 1979. Every Sunday
and open
night
mics, folks, are important because that's where new comics go in and can learn how to be a comic. Actually, have an audience that tells them you're not funny yet. And then one night you go in and you get some laughs and you go, I'm finally funny.
Yeah, it used to be when I got here, you were an open micer.
Yeah.
You were an MC. Mm-hmm. Then you were a middle act. Then you were a headliner. Then you moved to L.A. And that was the natural progression, which usually took 2.5 years to get through from initially starting out in the city.
Yeah, but
San Francisco was a way station. It wasn't a destination.
You know what the problem to me always was with that hierarchy was that some people were able to jump it. And here's how they did it. If you were a certain kind of act, nobody wanted to follow you. Nobody wanted to follow an act with props.
Bobcat.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to follow somebody who screams. Okay. And so consequently, something like Bob Goldthwait, he went straight to headliner. Where if he wasn't a screamer, he probably would have had to work his way up.
Yeah, but he also came kind of fully formed from Boston.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had, I came from Milwaukee. I wasn't getting the same kind of repetition on stage that other people were getting in other cities. Chicago, you could get up every day, every night. Boston, you could get up every night. I still don't understand why he went to San Francisco instead of New York.
Who?
Bobcat.
Bobcat. I don't think New York, oddly enough, wasn't a jumping off point. It wasn't a point at which you could build a reputation. It's where you went once you had one. The two cities that were engendering that embracing that kind of growth that you have to have in order to be a comic were Boston, which was a hotbed of comedy and so on.
Especially if you were a white male.
Gave us the likes of Bobcat and Kevin Meaney, and I'm trying to remember all the other people. Dana Gould.
Paula Poundstone.
Then you would, San Francisco was the other city that was good this way. So if you were in Boston and you wanted to go somewhere else, you came to San Francisco. You didn't go to L.A. L.A. was where you went after you made it in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the only reason you went to L.A. is you wanted to be seen on stage so that maybe some TV network would see you and give you a sitcom, and then you never have to go on stage again. Really, that's what it's all about.
It is. Yeah.
And
people who did not like stand-up, they just used it as a conveyor belt to the big time.
The biggest road warrior I know, which is Bobby Slayton, okay, who's out on the road a lot, okay, and through his life has probably logged up more air miles than anybody I know, okay. He went to L.A., and he would have been very happy to get a sitcom and not have to go and do his act anymore. It's just that way. Now, the only guy I know who hated doing a sitcom and was happy when it was over and went back to doing comedy in clubs and on stages across the country is Seinfeld. And you can't think of a more successful guy in television.
No.
But he didn't like it. He didn't like the pressure. He didn't, he talks about it all the time, that when it was over, he was happy. He was also about $500 million richer, but he was happy.
I don't know.
I just saw
what happens when you get to be that rich? There's a lot of different pressures.
Well, you can say "fuck you" to a lot of people.
That's true.
You know.
True.
The thing was, I saw a documentary on the last on the how Seinfeld came to be and all the stuff they had to go through, and Dave, they tell about Larry David, and Larry David on the documentary admits to it that he didn't want to work that show. He thought he would do the pilot, and that would be it. It would fail, and then he could go back to whatever he was doing. You know, he didn't want to have to do that that whole thing. It says here I'm getting a poor connection. Well, you're coming through okay. Anyway, that he didn't want it. He didn't want it. And they finally, they said to him, well, look, we're going to do 4 more. Come back and do it. And we'll make you an executive producer. They threw him executive producer. And now he's, of course, worth, you know, $250 million. He doesn't have $500 million because his wife took half of it, you know. But the fact of the matter is, if Larry David had had his way, he never would have had that success. You know.
No, the show would not have been a success.
Well, it took the
they needed all those voices in there to keep that show.
Yeah.
To be so unique, you know.
Well, it took the two of them. They just said they were a perfect confluence of energy, you know, and that what and they stood by their idea of what the show should be, you know, and not that it was a show about nothing, but that it just was not about what other sitcoms are about. You know, there wasn't the wife.
No, it was about minor irritations and stuff that, you know, a whole day can turn around, and everywhere that we've been, and you know, you go to
a Chinese restaurant, that's an episode, you know, and they stood.
And they didn't have to have a moral at the end.
They stood true to their vision, and their vision worked, you know,
and in the last episode, everybody goes to jail.
And I don't think anybody's ever done that kind of show since. I think that was one of a kind. They've tried to do things like it. You know, I always considered Friends the poor man Seinfeld, but it never was. It was Friends. It was a bunch of friends that hung out. So was Seinfeld. But the difference was some of them were likable on Friends. On Seinfeld, there wasn't one person there who wasn't selfish and self-absorbed.
Well, you were talking about a comedian and his circle of friends, you know.
Yeah.
So they're smart, and I never knew what Friends was about.
It was about trying
Except they had a great apartment.
Yeah, I never watched the show. I watched one episode, or tried to watch one episode, and I went, this is a poor man Seinfeld, you know. And I had no great love for it.
I don't watch a lot of sitcoms because I feel betrayed by the laugh track. It's like them telling you when to laugh, and I hardly ever agree with their choices.
This is something I argue with girlfriend about.
Or their vociferousness.
This is something I argue with girlfriend about. She says she doesn't like laugh tracks. And I said, well, you know, I said, you should watch Big Bang Theory. And she says, well, I don't like laugh tracks. And I said, that isn't a laugh track. That's an actual live studio audience, because they feel, and Chuck Lorre always felt, that having a live audience, and not all the shows have a live audience now, but having a live audience keeps your comedy honest. You know when it's funny when there's an audience. You don't know when it's funny when you've written it and somebody does it and you say, good performance, we hope people laugh at that. You know. So yeah,
I still don't like the studio laughs. That even if it's not a laugh track, I just don't like it. It makes me crawl.
Yeah,
because I've spent a lot of time trying to elicit actual laughter, and I know the difference.
Yeah, well, I just don't like it when it's pre-recorded laughter. You know, in the old days, somebody would tell a joke, "Hi, Bob. Hey, look, there's Bob," and everybody would, ha, and you go, where did that come from? You know, and it was the same laugh track they did 10 minutes earlier, you know.
Yeah, from I Love Lucy.
Yeah. But you know, but when there's a live audience there, I say, okay, you know, I'll allow that.
I don't watch a lot of sitcoms.
Although
Hans.
Lori,
what are you watching these days?
You know what I just finished? I finished on Netflix Designated Survivor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With Keeper?
Yeah. I liked the original show, but it wasn't that great. The new one, I think, is better than anything on Netflix, is better than anything they ever did on the network.
Oh, wow.
To begin with, they take advantage of the fact that they can say
dirty
words.
language.
Well, let me say this, and I'm not spoiling it because I'm not telling you why. The very last word that Kiefer Sutherland says after the 10 episodes is shit.
So it's a 10 episode.
Yeah, and
series?
it's really political. And what they've interspersed it with are real people talking to the camera about what they think is wrong with the country, made by documentary filmmakers. And they're like sitting there and say, "Look at this. This is on YouTube." And then they'll play some clips, and those clips are all legitimate, real people that they went out and filmed. So I kind of like the show. I think it really is a vast improvement over what they were doing on ABC.
Did you watch the first 2 seasons on ABC?
Yes, I did. I felt the second season so-so. First season, I liked the premise.
Yeah.
Now the premise, since you can't go with that premise that the guy, in case people don't remember, what happened was every time the Congress was meeting for the State of the Union address, the president, they would have one person who was a designated survivor in case something happened to the entire
member of the cabinet.
Right, member of the cabinet. And he's like, I don't know, I can't remember.
Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Something like that, yeah. And they blow up the Capitol, and he's the only one left alive, so he's the designated survivor. Well, that worked for a couple of seasons, but what do you do now? What they came back with was, it's now time for him to run for president. He's never been elected president, and he's not the kind of guy who knows how to run for president. And all the things that come into play, and his desire for honesty, and the consultant who says, no, you got to do this rather than this. And it really, I think, is a pretty good show this year.
Did they find out, did they punish the people who were responsible for the plot?
I think that was in year 2 they found those people. Yeah. Okay. But this one, it's pretty, I think it's pretty good. And politically, I love it because, one episode they had, for instance, I just got finished watching, was about a immigrant kid who the parents came over the border because he had to get a kidney transplant and needed dialysis, and they want to throw him out of the country because they came in illegally, and if they do, the kid will die. So those kind of things, and it's like, they're kind of slamming it. Let's face it, Kiefer Sutherland always was the anti-Trump. He was the president we all wish we had.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, we've gone well over our allotted time, and we didn't.
No. I have so much more to say.
Oh, well, go ahead.
To opine.
Go ahead. We mentioned Trump once, and that was just now when I was talking about Kiefer Sutherland's character being the anti-Trump. Yeah, I'm so tired of him. And
I think the whole country is.
Can I say this? We can go over a little bit here. Fuck him. I don't need. I can let you run long. I'm beginning to believe Buttigieg is the best choice.
Buttigieg.
And I'll tell you why. I feel he's the right choice. Is because. I think if he were out there making his case, he could win. And I've listened to him, and he's smart, and he has ideas, and he can talk foreign policy, he can talk domestic policy. I think he could run rings around Trump if he ran. And in the latest polls, he's beating Trump.
Yeah.
So
everybody is.
And he hasn't even...
Five are.
He hasn't even gotten his full
Biden, Bernie, Buttigieg, Harris, and
Elizabeth Warren.
Elizabeth Warren, they're all beating Trump.
Yeah, they're all beating Trump. So we'll see.
I'll be honest. I'd be okay with any of them except Bernie. I don't like Bernie.
I don't like Bernie either. I know. We're going to be hated for that. People are going, oh, how can you hate Bernie? We love Bernie. What do you mean you love Bernie? I know people who know Bernie in Vermont and hate him. and they're liberals.
He's got the sense of humor of an end table.
Yeah. And I don't really think he could win against Trump. I really don't. But Buttigieg, I like him. I just like him, and I don't think the gay factor is going to be a problem.
And he's young.
And he's young, and he's got ideas, and you feel he'd go in running, as opposed to crawling or waddling as Trump does, so whatever, But Trump, who knows? He's all for the Russians helping him, so we don't know.
And then the next day he said he didn't say that.
Yeah, even though it's on tape.
It's on tape.
Yeah.
Him insisting that what he's saying is true. And then the next day he said he didn't say that.
And then he doesn't believe the polls. Well, the polls that came back from his internal polling said the same thing that the Fox News polls said about these other people being able to beat him. And then
he fired his pollsters.
He fired the pollsters. That's killing the messenger. Okay. What the hell? Hey, listen. It's always great to talk to you.
Say hello to your lovely wife. I'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
And why don't you write her a nice note and tell her to close the windows? Ladies and gentlemen, Will fucking Durst.
That's me.
5 years and still talking. This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
And thank you very much, Will Durst. We really appreciate your having something to do with our little radio party here, or internet party. Anyway, I'm opening up the lines here. There's no Phil tonight. There's no Phil tomorrow night. So that'd be 3 straight nights that we've gone without Phil. Okay, and that's I think everybody can take that little rest and enjoy it. So I'm now waiting to see people call so that we can fill up our lines here. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's Josh Wheeler's our first caller this evening. Let me see here, and let me see if we can find him a little slot here. And we go Josh Wheeler. There he is. There we go with that. You haven't got your camera on, Josh. We need your camera on. There we go. Okay, here we go. And there he is. How are you doing, Josh? Wait a minute. Here comes Tom.
Pretty good. How you doing?
Here comes Tom Yamaguchi. We just, let's see here. Added him to the group. Let's see. Did we add him to the group? Did he get added? That's Tom. And there's Charlie. But Tom is still having a problem. We're having a problem with Tom. Getting him on. Let me see here. Oh, wait a minute. Jeff Stein. Okay. Jeff will be in there. Okay, so he's in the number 2 slot. Let me Steinzeller. Okay, let me see here. All right, now I think I need to call Tom Yamaguchi here. Hold on a second, so that we can get him on. I don't know what his problem was, but we have a way of handling this. So, we're now calling. If you're listening, Tom, we're calling you. So answer the goddamn phone, okay? That would be very nice if you did that. Let's see here. Come on, Tom, answer. Maybe there's something wrong with his line. I don't know. But anyway. Hello, gentlemen. How are you this evening?
Good.
Yeah?
Happy.
What?
Happy.
You're happy? Why are you happy?
I don't know. It's so goddamn raining today. I just stayed in home.
Really? I was so glad it was raining today, and I can explain why to you in a second. Wait a minute, let me just get Tom Yamaguchi in here. There we go. See, Tom, we can even get you on.
I'm sorry. I got getting a message that the signal was too weak, and then I didn't realize that you were actually trying to call me. It didn't actually say you were trying to call me. But anyway, when I realized that was the case...
Well, that thing about it being too weak has been a problem that they've had for a while, but we haven't been having it that much, Hasn't been happening that often, but it happened with you tonight.
Well, it happened to me for the first time.
But here you are, so there we go. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I am. And would you like to hear about Keith Sutherland?
Yeah, sure.
Because I mentioned him before. He a number of years ago, he did a documentary I saw on Canadian healthcare.
Yeah, because he's from Canada.
Yeah, the healthcare movie. I really recommend it. It's basically what they do is they go up, talk to Canadians about how they like their healthcare, and they dismiss a lot of the myths that say, oh, that, hey, you know, all the long lines, it's terrible. No, they love it up there.
Really?
And the reason why Keith Sutherland is doing did the narration is he's related, I think, on his mother's side to Tommy Douglas, who's the Prime Minister of Canada, who actually gave Canadians, what we would hear called Medicare for all, or universal health care.
Excuse me, I'm taking this off because it's too hot in here tonight.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Keith Sutherland.
Well, good. I kind of like this show. Politically, it's everything you want it to be. You know, it's very agreeable to our line of thinking, and it's just it's better than it was when it was on a network. And I think they felt they had a certain freedom that they would to be political that they never had on ABC.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Mm-hmm. Although I know about the designated survivor. Usually it's the Secretary of Energy.
Well, that's what this guy was, I think. Something like that.
I think he said he was HUD.
HUD, maybe, something like that.
In reality, usually they'll like Stephen Chu says, oh, you stay away.
So they actually do have a designated survivor.
Yes.
Yeah.
In case a place blows up and everybody's in the same place at the same time.
Right.
Which is a perfect place for terrorism to take place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what I always say is here in Berkeley, the first Wednesday of the month at noon, they test out the sirens. So I say to all the terrorists, hey, if you want to attack our city, that's a great time.
That's a great time to do it, right?
Oh, it's just a test.
Oh boy. So anyway, so you're mad today, Jeff, because it's raining, right?
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it is. And I'll tell you why. I've been feeling really crappy lately. And it came to a head on Sunday where I just said, I got to do something about this, because I was just feeling like my throat was all trashed, and I didn't know whether it was my heart. I didn't know what it was. So I went to one of these, the City MD, which is like a clinic, you know. And my doctor isn't open on Sunday, so I figured I would go and just see. I figured maybe it was allergies or whatever. And the guy went and he got all proactive and he gave me a chest x-ray, which proved nothing. I have a wonderful chest, ladies and gentlemen. I could show you the pictures because they gave me a little DVD to take home of my chest. And then they gave me an EKG. Well, my EKGs never come out okay? Because I have a heart murmur. And so it always comes out that they can't read it completely. They can't make a definitive statement through an EKG, which I told him before I even did it, right? So he said, well, if I were you, I would go to your doctor tomorrow and see him about this. So I made an appointment the next morning. My doctor saw me really early. And I went in, and he checked out my... he checked me out, and he said, well, the electrocardiogram, because I gave him we didn't even have to do one. I gave him the one that I had. And he said, yeah, that's you. We know that. You know, he said, but just to be on the safe side, it's been 2 years since we did an echocardiogram on you. So let's do an echocardiogram, which is really kind of, right? Am I right, Jeff? It's kind of like a sonogram of the heart, right? With a few extra bells and whistles. Turn on your microphone. We can't hear you.
Simple procedure.
Yeah.
No risk.
Yeah, and it pretty well gives you a good idea of what's happening down there.
Sure.
You know. So he checked it out, and I gained about two centimeters or something. I don't know on my aortic stenosis. He said if it keeps growing at this rate, he said you'll be dead in about another 50 years. You know. So he said nothing to worry about. Looks good. The rest of your heart looks terrific. So it's not your heart. He said, I bet it is allergies. It is pollen, you know. And today it started raining and I felt better. You know, I didn't feel as bad. Yeah, I still felt, you know, that I had something, but the chest wasn't, you know, hurting me as much. And today the eyes are watering. That's what the rain does for some reason. But I was talking to Durst, right? And he said to me, well, you can mitigate the pollen by keeping your windows closed.
Yeah.
Huh? Huh? Just tell that to my wife, who will not close the fucking windows. The only time she closes the windows because we're on the 8th floor, and when it's raining a pisser out there and the water's streaming in through the windows, and then she'll close the windows. But unless that's the case, you know, I told her, well, I've got allergies, and it looks like the pollen's really acting up, and if we could close the windows, it might help. And she went, no. Yeah, so whatever, you know. Ask me to get you your crutch the next time your leg goes bad, you know. You know, but I mean, it does. You can help with the pollen by keeping your windows closed and probably getting yourself what? Is there some kind of little device you can get that takes the pollen out of the air and so on? You know. So I spent a lot on doctors this weekend. So, well, no, I didn't. My medical plan did, but you know. You know, does anybody ever go to these like City MD or these clinics?
Yeah, I go.
Yeah, they're very good, aren't they?
Yeah, I've gone a couple of times, and they're pretty good. And I remember the last time I went there, she goes, well, I tell you what, I'm going to call up Yale and tell them that you're on the way.
Tell who?
Yale at the university.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, well, do you work there also? She goes, yeah, I do that too.
No.
So she said, I think it's time for a little checkup on with the cardiologist.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's no big deal.
Yeah, but you know, I go to them when I've got something where I feel like I've got like an infection or a cold or something like that. And why waste my doctor's time with that? You know? And they handle that kind of stuff very nicely. And if they think it's something worse, they're not gonna hesitate in telling you to call your doctor or get over to the hospital immediately. You know.
Is that guy or gal called a PE?
What? No, I get a different doctor every time I've gone down there.
Okay, there's some doctors who are not full.
Oh, these are full doctors. These are full doctors.
But they're very good.
Yeah, these are full doctors. Oh, you're talking about. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking. What? What's the term?
PAs, the physician's assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. This is a real doctor. I mean, you've got the physician's assistants there do all the workup on you in the beginning. Then he comes in and he checks you out. You know. And I mean, I like the fact that this guy was, you know, very careful about making sure that I didn't just let this thing go, you know, and it's a good first place to go. And then I talked to my doctor yesterday, and I said, you know, I felt guilty. I went to City MD, and he said, oh no, that's perfectly fine. He said that's sometimes the first place to go because you know I'm not open on Sunday, you know. But he said no. He believes in those places and thinks they do a very good job. You know. So what the hell?
Do you go to Presbyterian?
What?
Do you go to the Presbyterian hospital?
No, I go to the hospital I say I'm going to die in. Mount Sinai.
Okay.
Yeah. Mount Sinai's the closest. If I have a heart incident or I break a leg or something, the first place I call will be Mount Sinai. And as we pass by Mount Sinai on the bus going home from downtown, I look at it and I say to Marjorie, I think that's where we're going to die.
This is the exit plan.
this is the exit plan, you know. So, but I've just been feeling like crap. I mean, just really terrible. And he said to me that this is maybe the worst pollen season we've had ever. You know, that it's just terrible. And he said he says up where I live, which is up in Westchester, he says you should see the car is filled with pollen when I come out in the morning. You know, so anyway, today I was feeling a little better. So what the hell, you know, I'm not as lightheaded today, whatever. But I'll be happy to be through with this and go to sleep. You know, I'm exhausted. Oh, then tonight, before we go on, it's it's always something, and I've really got to take my hat off to Damien. To begin with, he's a great guy to work with. You know, I mean but he had a problem tonight. Well, he didn't have a problem. He got himself a new computer. Yeah. Okay, and he installed the new computer, but all the stuff that would help him code the program wasn't working. So up until his airtime, we were trying to get the thing working, and then it turned out that he has two ways to run that computer, either in Windows 10 or Windows 7, and so he simply switched over to Windows 7, and everything worked. All right. So I had that before I went on the air tonight, and where I could usually spend the half hour that he's on, relaxing, taking it easy, having my cup of coffee, you know, doing whatever. We had to deal with that, so that was a little adventure tonight. So, but anyway, I get increasingly bothered by the fact that, like, tonight, Donald Trump held a rally to announce he's running for president again. What a surprise! Okay. And in the next couple of weeks, we've got these debates between the Democratic candidates. And I'm going, isn't this too soon? I mean, we're still a year and a half away from even voting. I mean, what's going on here? This is getting to be overkill. Yes, Tom.
Well, I mentioned the last time I was on, a lot of it is money. You know, the candidates have to raise a lot of money, and it just pushes further and further and further. And then it's a media pile-on. Well, we got to have a front runner. We got to have one front runner, right? Hurry up and hurry up and hurry up and wait. You know, I mean, they want us to have a nominee by, next March. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to be another, until November. It is ridiculous. I agree. But that's the way the system is right now. And it's only been made worse by Citizens United. I mean, you could partially blame, or actually mostly blame it on that. It's just like the money thing has just gotten even worse.
Well, maybe we have to take the money out of it, huh?
Yeah. Let's get rid of Citizens United.
if we're going to have the democracy we admire, the one that we tout as being the best thing ever, I think maybe we need to do something about that whole system of funding campaigns and the time we spend having people run. Nobody should declare until the first day of the election year.
Well, when Jack Kennedy announced he was running for president in 1960, I think it was maybe the second day of January of that year that he announced.
Yeah.
And the first primary, I think New Hampshire was the first Tuesday in March.
Yep.
That was the first primary.
Oh, well, you know what happened? The primaries. First, you have the Vermont primary and you have the Iowa caucus. And
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Excuse me, New Hampshire, and then the Iowa caucus. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Iowa caucus is first, and then the New Hampshire primary.
I don't even remember the Iowa caucus when I was younger. I mean, that seems to be, it might have happened, but I don't think
Well,
anybody
I'll tell you, I went to the Iowa caucus.
I know, but that was 2008.
Yeah, 2008. But I went to the Iowa caucus, and I was saying to myself, what are caucuses all about, and why are they necessary? And I liked it because it was a true expression of politics, and of the common man being able to give you his vote. And they would all meet in various places like schools, and then they would all line up in front of people who had signs for various candidates. And then those people would try to convince the other people to come over to their line. And eventually, by the end of the night, you came out with kind of a consensus, at least at that school or at that place, that caucusing place. And then all those results then went into the main, polling place, or whoever did the main adding up of everything, and they came out with their nominees. I thought that was so democratic and so proactive that I really felt every state should be doing that. And if people don't go to those caucuses, then fuck them. You didn't participate. You had a chance to truly participate in something hands-on, and you didn't. Yeah. Yes, Tom.
Well, it works out fine for people who are free that night. They can go to a caucus that night and spend that amount of time. I mean, but
it was only two.
Families, they have other obligations.
Yeah,
and to say fuck them, I think is sort of
elitist. I don't think that this took any more time than it would take the average person, to vote. You just go out and vote. It was a fast process. It didn't take all night, and it wasn't, and it was there was kind of a social aspect to it that I liked, It's like your neighbors are all getting together to, make this decision. When you talk about that, about people not being able to do things, I mean, why in the world do we have election days on Tuesday?
Yeah,
why don't we have them for, say, a full day on Sunday, or on Saturday if you're really religious? Well, if you're Jewish, maybe you don't want to go on Saturday. But I just think, or either that, or just, we were always looking for a way to kind of equalize the days out. Why don't we make a non-day once every 4 years? And that non-day would be election day. We can go to work,
Need a federal holiday.
Federal holiday, but it's not a day at all. It doesn't have a day on it, a date.
Well, I mean, you can make a federal holiday. You can encourage early voting, which the Republicans do everything they can to suppress.
Yeah.
But allow for early voting. A lot more people here in California are using the vote by mail ballots. They don't even call them absentee ballots anymore. They call them vote by mail ballots. And a lot of people, when I'm working the polls, a lot of the ballots that come in are people coming right off the street. They've got their vote by mail ballot in the envelope. They just stuff it in the bin, and they're on their way.
What about us eventually? And I know you're probably not going to like this, voting online.
If it can be secure, if it can be secure.
How is it any? How is it going to be any less secure than the polling places? We know that. For years, hell, some of the ballots would wind up in the river. I mean, anybody who wants to play around with an election can do it if they really have the desire to do so. So.
Well, the idea is having enough checks and balances to ensure that, and all I know is California, and we always make sure we've got a paper trail, and we have to count those ballots. I mean, it's the real pain of that job is the end of the night, because every ballot has to be accounted for, everyone when it goes back.
Yeah.
And so you just have to have the checks and
But
balances.
this is all state by state, though. I mean, there are some states that are just purely still to this day corrupt. And that's how
incompetent.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think that we need to change the whole way we do elections. I mean, I believe that what we should do is I've been yelling and screaming about doing away with the primaries. And I want to do away with the primaries because I see that they are only a function for the parties. And by the way, those primaries don't really do much for the minor parties at all. But it becomes a big, large advertising vehicle for the major parties. Oh, who's going to win the primary? Who's going to win the Democratic primary? Who's going to win the Republican? Who's going to win the Green Party? Well, we don't care. Where's their convention? Oh, well, they don't get televised. I mean, I just think primaries are useless. Let's do what we used to do, and we go back into the back into the last century to when they did this, and just have all these guys go to their convention and make their case, and somebody comes out the nominee, and then tell us who it is, and we'll either vote or not, or for one or the other, but. We don't start having you campaign till after the convention is over with. So we've got about a 4-month period in which people are campaigning, and we've shortened that whole window, like all the other countries in the world. Yeah, Tom.
And the last century, blacks and women didn't vote either. Maybe we go back to that side. State legislatures actually chose our senators, so people didn't vote on those either. Maybe we can go back to those days too.
Well, no, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we up until very recently didn't have primaries. They were not a major factor in deciding the nominee of the parties. And I want to find some way to shorten this whole window. I want who's ever president to be president, not be running again for president 2 days after he's elected the first time. Yes, Josh.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. I wish we had more of a national primary, day. Instead of them being so straightened out. I mean, I don't have a problem with, having the primary and letting the people choose their nominee. I just don't like the way the process takes so long from beginning to end, because sometimes, like in Ohio, I think we're fairly, like middle to just after the middle, I think. So if you live here, for instance, and you really like a certain person, you may not really actually get a chance to vote for them, or the vote that you cast for them might not count very well, because by the time they get to Ohio, it's usually either sewn up or narrowed down to the point where it doesn't matter. And I'm just throwing out names. I'm not saying who I'm for or against. I'm just saying, for instance, if you really like, Kamala Harris or something, by the time they get to Ohio, there may actually be a lot of people nationally that like her, but she may have to drop out of the race after like South Carolina or something, just because she didn't do very well in like the first 3 or 4 states. But, there's 45 or 46 other states that she didn't even really get to represent herself in, because she didn't get past the first 2 or 3. So who's really choosing our nominee? Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and, Nevada, which that's not very representative of America, I mean, that's my problem with the primary.
Well, I just think it should be the job of the party to decide who the nominee is going to be. And then let us see your nominee, and if we like them, we'll vote for them. And if we don't like them, we won't vote for them. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, Josh has an excellent point. That's another reason why this thing just gets so accelerated. Like next year, California is actually going to separate out its primaries. They're going to have a presidential primary in March and a regular primary in June. And frequently, I mean, this happened last night, and this happened in 2008. Once again, many of the candidates, were dropped out, and in June with Clinton and Obama, they were still fighting out. We could have had our primary in June and still had the same choices, and so because we'd already had the presidential primary. The regular primary for the state and local offices were, hardly anybody showed up.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to reflect on the fact that the primaries are more than just the presidential candidates. There's state and local. There's also propositions on those ballots too. So it's more than just the primaries choosing their presidential.
Yeah, but when those those are only
election.
Those are only piggybacked onto the primaries because there's an election being held. But if they didn't do that, they could still have their own elections for those issues, for those ballot process.
But we have assembly members, we have state senators, every 4 years. Well, yeah, every 4 years, the state senators, the governors, those all include primaries too.
Well, I just think that we need to do something to speed this whole process up, because I don't want to have to even worry about who's running for president until January.
Shorten it, compress it.
Yeah, but you're not going to compress it as long as these people go, hey, it's April, I better say I'm running now. You know what? Right now, think about it, folks. We're only 2.5 years into this presidency, and already we're having everybody run for the next term. It makes no sense. Number one, it's not a good idea because people get a little tired of it early. But secondly, and I have to say this in spite of the fact that as much as I hate Trump, I mean, he was elected president. Let him worry about the next time he runs next year, right? Not now. Let him do his job, although he hasn't so far. But, I can hope, So, I mean, I just think it's not a very good process all the way around,
No.
Yeah, so.
That's what I had to say.
Okay.
What do the Democrats have now? Over 20 people?
24. I think it's 24, isn't it, everybody?
I don't know.
20,
They have 20 that I believe made their cut for their debate.
Yeah. There are
How many are actually running as a Democrat? I believe is higher than that. It's around
24.
4 or 5 more, I think.
Yeah.
Something around that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Way too many.
And I would like to say that I find it unfair that those other people, I mean, let's face it, if you're spreading it out over 2 nights and let's say it's 24, that only adds 2 more people to the mix, So make your debate 2.5 hours instead of 2 hours, and make sure that everybody has a real chance. Because there might be somebody in that mix who isn't being paid attention to, who really has something important to say, and that a debate might make that person shine. But they can't because they don't get to sit at the big guys' table.
Yeah. I look at it like the way the basketball games are, where, the guys from California go after these guys, and then the ones for the East go against those, and then ultimately they cut it down. I think when you have so many, it's just ridiculous.
Well, I was watching MSNBC today.
This should not have 10 people.
I was watching MSNBC today, which is not my real big choice for viewing these days. My big choice is I watch CBSN, which I feel actually reports the news, where the MSNBC is reporting liberal news and Fox is reporting conservative news. CBSN is actually reporting the news, and I find that more refreshing. But I was watching MSNBC today, and this Steve Kornacki, who I can't stand, with his board with all his statistics and stuff like that, is standing there saying, here are the way they're going to be positioned at the podium and the spots that they have. And I'm going, my God, even this is unfair. I mean, the person who's in the center obviously is going to be the center of attention. So, I mean, it's I don't find it a very democratic process. Yes, Jeff?
Well, who's running the show?
The Democratic National Committee supposedly is.
I thought they had some guys from
You know,
MSNBC.
no, what it is, no, the MSNBC is running it, but it's being hosted by or looked over by
moderated, yeah.
by the Democratic National Committee. Now, do you remember who used to hold the debates?
League of Women Voters.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And where do they stand politically? Nowhere.
Nowhere.
You know, and that was, I think, fair. Okay? But I don't think the League of Women Voters has anything to do with any of these debates anymore.
Not anymore.
You know. Hey, we gave them the vote, that's enough. You know? I mean, but I just, you know, I'm, you know, and all of a sudden you got Trump tonight. He's back to the same old stuff, you know, the fake news and the Russia probe and all of that, and what he's running on. Is he nuts? Well, we don't. I'm asking a stupid question, you know.
Yeah, it's always complaining about Clinton.
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yeah, he's still, you know, he's amazing. Did you see anybody see the interview he did with Stephanopoulos? Yeah, the man has totally lost it. I mean, it's okay to listen to a foreign government when they come to you with information about people who are running against you. I mean, come on. I mean, maybe that's the way you did things in New York illegally, but I mean, we don't do that nationally. You're president of the United States. You have to set the tone for the rest of the country. That's what the president, among other things, does, and you're setting a bad example. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I was just saying earlier. You were saying, you know, why don't you just let Trump, you know, do his 3, 4 years, just running the country, not worry about being president.
Mm-hmm.
But that seems to be the only interest he has in the job is actually running for president.
Yep.
I mean, it's a joke that this is his kickoff route. He took out papers as soon as he was inaugurated. He's been doing these rallies constantly. There's the only things he's really interested in are the rallies.
Well, you know why? You know why? You know why? Because he likes the adulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean these rallies are large scale, you know, ring kissing ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he is the type that likes to have the ring kissed, you know. And sadly, our society has evolved in a way, and I don't know why, I mean, I don't have the answer, but our society has evolved in a way so as, at least recently, our politics has become much like, you know, our sport. And that if you're my guy, you can almost get away with whatever because I want to win. You know, like you said with some of the comments he made about accepting help from a foreign leader or whatever. I mean, 10 years ago, probably even, that would have been like, well, this guy's done, off the map, see you later. You know, he's from Cuckooville, send him back where he came from. The village called, they like their idiot back. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, the whole thing. And now it's evolved to where it's like sports. You know, the best player on our team, our running back, he beat the shit out of his wife, and he beat his kid up this week, and it's Tuesday, and it's like, well, that's really not great, but is he going to make bail? Can he play Sunday? You know, I mean, that's where we're at, you know, like in sport, for example. And that's kind of how politics has evolved. It's like, you know, oh, I wish he wouldn't have said that, but, you know, I want to win. You know, I don't want to be, my neighbor is a Democrat, and I don't want to listen to his mouth if I lose, you know, because that's the way people are. And I don't know the answer. I mean, how the hell do we get away from that? I mean, because that's what's ruining it.
Well, I mean, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better. And it is exacerbated by these news organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're ginning it all up.
Right.
I mean, yeah, sure, I'm a lefty, but I don't like MSNBC because I feel they're sucking my dick.
Yeah.
And while normally I would like somebody who sucked my dick, in this particular case, I just don't like being pandered to.
And they've taken a page out of the sports book, right? I mean, they're the one, like you said, they're going to give you your 6 hours of pregame every Sunday, right?
You know something? They may as well go out and get sports reporters to cover the election. Right. Because really, that's all we're really doing is and here's where everybody's going to be positioned on the day of the debate, okay? And this is the lineup for today's game. He's going to be here, and he's the quarterback. And, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't, maybe, am I an old fart? Is that what it is?
No, I think that's how it's evolved. I mean, and I'm being serious. I mean, sports has been highly successful and a big moneymaker in this country for, decades. I mean, maybe, century.
Yeah.
And the news, never was really a big moneymaker.
Right.
And if you turn politics into a form of entertainment, such as what sport is, you can make more money. And each person that gets in the game becomes more famous. I mean, reporters who report the news, if it weren't like this, might have 5,000 Twitter followers, and they can get 50,000 Twitter followers, and that gets you a book, right? Because you cover a campaign for 2 years, and then you can write a book about it. And even if it's not a huge book, hell, you made $100,000. Even if that's all you make, well, that's $100,000 that you wouldn't, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean. Yeah. That's what it's like. It makes a career out. Everyone's making a career out of doing it.
I'm looking at Drudge because I was looking for the name. First, let's go to Charlie. No,
I just wanted to point out that all of this started when news all of a sudden became a money-making entity. Before, I don't know, was it Reagan or somebody? The news could not make money. It had to be a law. I mean, they had to report to benefit the public, and they not to get ratings and not to make money. And then once they were freed up to make money, then they had to trump up all of these controversies and stuff so that people would watch them instead of another channel, so they can make more money.
I have a Tom.
Well, I said I have a special beef with MSNBC, which I don't watch because I don't watch cable. I don't even have cable, so I don't watch cable news. But I have my special beef with MSNBC is the fact, of course, the conservatives for years have been saying, "Oh, the news has a liberal bias," and it goes back to Goldwater. And so when Fox came along with their fair and balanced, I mean, I interpreted meaning we're going to be balanced by giving right-wing news, and then we're going to be that'll in itself will make us fair. But then MSNBC turns around and says, "Oh, well, if they're doing right-wing news, we'll do left-wing news." And so what are they doing? They're validating Fox's the conservative viewpoint that news is biased. I mean,
well, that's the reason why, and I said this earlier, that I have suddenly started watching CBSN, because what I found, two things. Number one, as I said, MSNBC says we're going to be the news for the left, and Fox goes, we're going to be the news for the right, and CBSN says we're going to be news. And what they're doing is, they're reporting all the stuff that was around today, but without bias, okay? Without a bent on it. They report it. Here's what's happening. Here's what Trump said today. And then they get to other news, like here's what's happening in Afghanistan today, and this happened in Syria today, and this happened in London today, and this, in other words, the worldview of the news. And important news, things that affect you and me. I mean, the Hong Kong thing is a major story. And I don't really see any of those other networks leading with that story, and that's a big, big story. Yeah, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Just one more thing about and it's true. Everybody has a bias. And certainly reporters have biases. But a professional recognizes their bias and actually works to seek out information to counteract or contradict that bias. And that's the difference between what a professional journalist would do.
Yeah, yeah. So, so what are we going to do? I mean, what's the answer here? The answer is, I think, we have to. I find when I say to some people who are liberals how terrible I find MSNBC, they think I'm a conservative. Well, what do? You watch Fox? No, I mean I watch the BBC and I watch CBSN. I go to places where I can watch the news, see it with my own two eyes, and make my opinion out of it as I'm watching it, and not have people tell me what I'm supposed to be thinking, or to play to, to pander to my better nature. I don't like that. This is not right, So anyway, I was looking at this thing. I went to Drudge because what I wanted to find out was today we had a acting Secretary of Defense resign, who was going to be the next Secretary of Defense, but unfortunately it turns out he had something in his past which, quite frankly, I don't think should have disqualified him. It was a domestic dispute in which he claimed his wife hit him and she claimed he hit her. And then she took the kid and they separated, and then the kid hit the mother with a baseball bat. It's like a whole, but it was, I almost felt bad for the guy because it didn't seem like he had done anything particularly wrong, that it was a family dispute and she was accusing him of stuff that he didn't do and he was accusing her of stuff she did. That's the way it looked. But it happened 10 years ago, something like that, And what really made me sad is that right now there's this whole thing going on off of Iran with that ship, the oil tankers being attacked. Maybe. I don't know. Do you buy that story, by the way?
I don't buy that Iran did it.
Huh? You don't buy that Iran did it?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. Because I certainly don't. I have my doubts. Okay, that they did it. I would like to think maybe they. It's horrible if they did, but there's a good question as to whether that really went on. Okay. Anyway, yes, Tom.
I would say it's very possible that they did do it,
Mm-hmm.
and I say that there are strong forces in both the U.S. and Iran that actually want war.
Yeah.
And I don't know any more than anybody else does, but I think it's curious that that one of the people that were most nervous about getting into war with Iran was this guy, whose name the Boeing guy who just dropped out as Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Leaving. What's his name?
I'm trying to remember his name. I was looking. I went to Drudge. Okay.
I'm having a senior moment.
I went to Drudge because I figured his name would be there, and he's
anyway, what's his
not
name?
even mentioned.
But anyway, but so if he's out of the picture, who's left? Pompeo and John Bolton.
Yeah.
And damn well John Bolton wants to go to a war with Iran. I mean, and just to add this, I mean, Iran has announced that, since Trump has pulled out of the deal, they're going to go ahead and start developing a nuclear bomb again. So,
well, did you hear the best thing that happened was in the case of Pompeo said to Iran through the Japanese prime minister who was there on a visit, will you please tell Iran that we would like to have some kind of talks about de-escalating this or whatever. And Iran told the Prime Minister of Japan, tell them basically to go fuck themselves. Because, Trump has talked so badly about us and has created such a bad atmosphere with us that we really don't want to do business with him. So now we have a president that nobody wants to do business with because of the way he's been treating them. Imagine Pompeo believing that he could actually get Iran to talk after all the things that Trump has said about Iran.
Yeah. By the way, Patrick Shanahan.
Patrick Shanahan. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing about the election season coming along so early, and Trump brings this, upon himself, is, the divide here is so great, and it's getting started so early, and he's done nothing to, buck that trend. If anything, he's accelerated it. Is he almost is making himself a quasi lame duck, if you will, anyway. So if you're, Iran, at least if it were me, I would say, well, listen, why negotiate with this fool? He's probably out in 2 years anyway. Right. Let's just tell him to go, suck a dick for the next 2 years, and then see who we get next. And maybe, when America returns to a more normal, chain of events, we can negotiate with the next person. I mean, I'm not saying he's a lame duck. I'm saying, in that sense.
Yeah, but here's the shitty part of it. Okay, is that we had a treaty with Iran that they weren't going to continue their nuclear program. We then backed out of it because of Trump deciding he was going to back out of it. And then we weren't part of that treaty anymore. And now they're going, oh, well, fuck you. Then we'll start building our nukes again. Exactly. I mean, how did he feel he was serving any greater purpose by taking the stance that he took?
Mm-hmm. He's not. He's a dangerous person. I mean, that's been my opinion since well before he was elected. I mean, before he was even the nominee. He's a dangerous person.
I think anybody like a Trump would be dangerous. In other words, somebody who you take from the private sector and make him president of the United States. Somebody who doesn't.
What I'm saying is, Trump is the guy who's talked like all the hillbillies where I live sit around their table and talk. Well, I'll just tell them all go fuck themselves. They want to make a bomb, go ahead and make a bomb. We'll make a bigger bomb, blow their ass away. And that's nonsense. But that's what, people say when they're sitting around eating their fucking Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever.
Yeah.
And he comes along and, he talks this fucking nonsense. And it happens to come at a time when a lot of people bought into it, because of other political tiredness with the, status quo or whatnot. And, and then you throw in a third party who, probably helped, with their hand in it a little bit here and there. I'm not saying it was because of that. I'm saying it was a combination of, things. And he gets himself elected. And then he continues that type of rhetoric. And there's a reason that people in the past haven't used it. Because it's dangerous and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Hello, Patrick.
Hola.
Hola. Yeah. You know what's interesting is that this guy, what's his name, Shanahan or
Shanahan? Yeah.
Shanahan.
Shanahan. Patrick
Shanahan.
Nelson Patrick.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to remember his name because he's gone now, but. He was acting Secretary of Defense. Now, right now, we need a Secretary of Defense. All right?
If we're going to war.
But we only had an acting Secretary of Defense, and it's amazing how many people in his administration are an acting something. He doesn't appoint permanent people to anything.
Well, he can't get anyone to work for him. I mean, in a lot. I mean, the only people that really go and work for him, it's been clear to me, are people, and I've made this argument many times, people are probably getting tired of it, but they are people that are just so desperate to sit at the right hand of power that they will sell their fucking soul to the Trump devil. Even though they know that 6 or 8 or 10 months later, they're gonna, look at him the wrong way one day, and he's gonna stab him in the back and get his phone out and type nasty things about him, ruin their reputation, make it to where everyone hates him. But it's like, but that 8 or 9 months that I was in the room, it was worth it. I mean, is that what they think? I don't know. I mean, I guess I used to have more faith in people, and I've just learned, I guess people are just stupid. I mean, there's no other way to. I don't know what to think of that, but that has to be what it is, because he has trouble attracting people to work for him. I mean, it's like, the only people that will take it are the bottom of the rung, desperate people that probably wouldn't have gotten a job in a more mainstream administration. And you see what it's getting us. I mean, he's a dangerous person.
Would you want to have worked for him? I mean,
I agree. Yeah. I mean, and he just, he for someone who, supposedly demands so much loyalty, I mean, he is the most disloyal person, I've ever seen. I mean, and he was that way in private business, from what I understand.
Well, I've been in a position where I've been kind of a boss, in that I would do a radio show and I had a whole staff of people that were backup people on the show. And I always told everybody, if you ever think I'm doing something wrong or I did something wrong, stand up and tell me. I don't want a bunch of yes men around here. He does. You don't want to go up against him. You don't want to have him feel you're being disagreeable, because he will then have it out for you. Yeah. The perfect example of this is Fox News did a poll to see how the Democratic candidates stack up against Trump. 5 of them beat Trump in a matchup. Okay? Buttigieg being one of them. He then has White House pollsters that they hired to go out and do the same thing. And the results come back, and guess what? It's the same result.
Yeah.
Okay? So what does he do? He doesn't like the news, so he shoots the messenger and gets rid of the pollsters. You just paid, what, a couple of $1 million to get polls done? And now you're going to say they're wrong? Especially when they also agree with Fox, who would like to have it on your side, but it isn't. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
Biden beats him by about 10 points.
Yeah.
And Buttigieg, I think, beats him by about 5 points, or maybe 2 points, something like that.
And it's only going to take 1 or 2 of those states to swing the election back away from him. I mean, I know he says he, won in the biggest landslide victory since, George fucking Washington, but I mean, okay, we all know.
Did Washington lose by 3 million?
Afraid not. So I mean, so it's only going to take 1 or 2 of those states anyway, but. And it's a long way to go. We've talked about all that. I mean, so I understand, and I know everyone's going to say, well, the polls get it wrong. I agree with all that. But I'm just saying, that's why he's so upset, because the polling at this time, if you break it down, indicates that not only would he lose, but he's going to get, a whooping. I mean, it's going to be like when Bill Clinton got reelected over Bob Dole. It's going to be that kind of a victory.
Okay, but here's the big question. Here's the big question. It was hitting me tonight. I said to myself, it looks to me like Trump is quite beatable. Okay, I mean, if the polls at this point say that, we aren't even into the real down and out arguing. And all these people in America have already heard what Trump has to say. But they all haven't heard what Biden has to say and what Buttigieg has to say and what Elizabeth Warren has to say. So that distance could even get larger if you get the best, if you get a really good candidate, okay? So Trump is beatable. But I think the only thing that's working in his favor is the Democratic Party, who, given the chance, will fuck up and nominate the wrong person.
I agree. And the only other thing that I was going to mention when you got done, and possibly, he better pray that for the next 18, 19, 20 months, the economy stays where it's at. Because if it begins to tick down at all, that's going to pull the rug right out from under his. I mean, that's going to be his last argument. When things don't start looking good, when he's in the general election and he's facing the other party's nominee, and it gets in the heat, if the economy starts to not do well at all, I think, that'd be the worst possible thing that could happen to him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because he's not going to have anything to fall back on at that point.
Yes, Jeff had his hand up. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm curious. Who do we think is the Democrat that might get this job, or who won't get this job? Even if they.
My fear is, my fear is that the Democrats will nominate the public, the Democratic populace.
Biden?
Will go with the wrong candidate. Yeah, I don't know that Biden's going to get the nomination, and I don't know that he's the guy to beat Trump, even though it looks like it now. I think, quite frankly, my instincts, my showbiz instincts, and that's really what this is all about. It is a giant game of show business. My showbiz instincts say that given if he's made the nominee, and he has to go out there and be a politician and convince people of his way and make people feel comfortable with him. I think Mayor Pete is a very good person to beat Trump because there's a blank slate there. I've talked about this before. The trouble with Biden is you've got 40 years of him making mistakes that you can go back to and fight about and to hold against him and whatever. In the meantime, this guy, Mayor Pete, what do you know about him? All you know, he's a good-looking guy. He speaks very well. I mean, when I hear him talk about international stuff especially, he's so bright and he's so smart that I think this is the guy that could beat Trump because Trump can't really sully him. There's nothing for Trump to go after there except call him that fairy, and he won't do that because he knows that's a killer. Yes, Tom.
Well, I'd say one of the things I really like about Buttigieg is he really articulates his values very well. Like, one of the criticisms about him is that he doesn't have all these positions all lined up like Elizabeth Warren. I like Elizabeth Warren too, don't get me wrong. But one thing that you have to think of, no matter who gets elected, no matter how many wonderful, brilliant ideas they got, they've got to get those ideas through Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So having all these plans is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to sell those plans to Congress takes a lot of skill in itself. I think that's one of the things I liked about Buttigieg.
Yeah, I think that he articulates his feelings well. He also has a terrific grasp on international politics, and he has a certain dignity that I think almost every one of the other people lacks. I mean, I think Elizabeth Warren, she's very bright. I think she's pretty good. I don't think she could win, okay? I'm thinking in showbiz terms. Who could win? What do you think, Patrick?
I mean, Mayor Pete seemed to be the only one so far, but it's so damn early to really, for me, I mean, we're going to have two debates coming up. Is it this week or next week?
Next week, yeah.
And the thing that, now I know they did it was a raffle or whatever to see which of the 5 front runners would be where, and it kind of sucked the way it turned out, where it's just Elizabeth Warren on the first night, and then it's the 4 other ones on the second night. So Bernie and Biden and Kamala and Pete are going to be battling it out among themselves on one night, and Elizabeth Warren's going to have the stage pretty much to herself the first night with all the second tier people. And, that, I don't know if that's an advantage for her or not. And, unfortunately for me, I would be more interested in watching the second night with the four on there battling each other than her all by herself.
Okay, you're going to have side by side, you're going to have Buttigieg, Bernie, and Biden, the three Bs, if you will. They're going to be standing next to each other, which means they're going to be playing to each other. Okay? They're not going to be playing to de Blasio, who's all the way down at the end. Okay? And they'll have to crane their neck to see him. Well, you have to crane your neck to figure out his politics, too. But, in that triumvirate there, that threesome, who do you think would hold up best at the end of the night? Bernie, Biden, or Buttigieg? Yes, Jeff.
I think it's Pete.
Yeah.
At this point. But it depends upon what they have to say.
It also depends on what questions are asked and how much time. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that Elizabeth Warren may have the advantage on the first night is she got a big mouth and she's known, and these other people are in everybody's view also rammed already because it's Elizabeth Warren. And then on the second night, you do have the 3 or 4 bigger names, but they're going to have less time because, as you said, they're going to be playing off each other. Yeah. But it's only 2 hours. And what questions are they going to get? And how much time are they going to have to answer? While Elizabeth may be given quite a wide berth on the first night to answer questions and to state her policies. So, as much as it was supposed to be a raffle, blind, whatever, I think it should have been divided up a little better. 2 of them on one night, 3 on the other, or whatever, of the bigger names. And I don't know that you're going to get a real good litmus test from either one of those debates because of the way it got divided.
Jeff has his hand up. Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, I think Warren is going to do very well because I think she's a good speaker and she's willing to talk to anybody and go after the details. She's okay. Not so much a bullshitter.
I'm going to say something here that's probably going to drive Tom up a tree. And that is that I always look at these things and I say, okay, I can tell you who I like, I can tell you who appeals to me, but who can win? Who, and face it, ever since every election throughout history has been won based upon the media or the platform of the times. I use as an example the fact that FDR was the perfect radio president because he sounded good, but you didn't want to have to see him because he was always sitting down. There was something suspicious about that. But radio, he was the walking, talking president, right? Lincoln.
Don't say walking.
Lincoln was an imposing figure who looked great from the back of a train. All right? And then we get to television, and who do we suddenly see wins because of television? Kennedy. And so what we really realize, it's whatever the cosmetics of the day that are very, very electable. And I just wonder if Elizabeth Warren just doesn't have the tele-friendly look. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I like her thoughts, and I can listen to them, and I under normal conditions, I would probably vote for her, but I don't think she can beat Trump. Yes, Patrick.
I think she looked like Kirsten Gillibrand and had her, and it was Elizabeth Warren. I think that would be a better combination for her for television.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's that sexy one that people mentioned the other day? Huh?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard. She's what, from Hawaii?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah. I saw a picture of her the other day. She's very attractive. Yes, Tom.
Well, I'll just say, just to answer what you're saying, I'm willing to let the trust in the process, because for all its flails, that's what we've got. That's the process. And let's go ahead and let the voters decide who's going to be the candidate. And as I said, I don't see why Elizabeth Warren can't win.
But you see, we live in a very media-ized age, though, Tom. You know?
Well,
and you're not.
That's different than it was when Kennedy was running. Television has changed as well. We're beyond the days when we just had the 3 networks.
Yeah.
We've got the multiplicity of networks, and we've also got social media. So we're dealing with a different age. And I'm not saying I don't know how this will play out, but I just say voters decide who the best Democratic candidate is. And I'll say one thing right now: whoever that nominee is going to be, I am going to go out and work for that nominee and do everything I can to get that person elected.
Yes, yes, Patrick.
Yeah, Tom, you need to scream that to all of your friends on Facebook, because I think that you and I have some common friends that are, and I don't know if you heard me say this a few times over the last.
I've heard you say it a few times, and I'll tell you this, Patrick. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to tell your family, since we are Facebook friends, you go back and tell your family, if they do not vote for the Democratic nominee, they are voting for Donald Trump.
Yep.
They are voting for Trump. You can tell your Bernie friends, if they don't vote for the Democratic nominee, they're voting for Donald Trump.
Tom, you actually had Democrats who didn't get their nominee last time, okay, because they wanted Bernie. And when they didn't get Bernie, guess who they voted for? Trump.
Stein.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Or Trump.
Yeah.
And which means they really voted for Donald Trump.
No, they voted for Donald Trump. Bernie didn't get nominated, therefore I'm voting for Donald Trump. What? How do you make
10% of the Bernie voters did not vote for Hillary? Only 10%. That's a smaller percentage of the Hillary voters that didn't vote for Obama.
Okay. Yeah, but I still think I worry about Democrats. Okay, they do not play a good long game. Okay.
Well, we got to go out and educate them. That's the thing. We do have.
But see, but I agree with you on that. But I've kept quiet because what I'm going to have to say, and Patrick is going to know what I'm going to say because I've talked to him before. It's just going to make everybody lose their fucking minds. But I mean, you're right that they don't. But I don't think that they don't do it in the way that you guys do. I mean, I see a person like Joe Biden as the only true person in that group that can be the nominee, and I see him as the only person that not only can defeat Donald Trump, but as the only person who, after that fact, can actually govern. I mean, and I've told people, my wife knows, I mean, I've talked to her before, if they want to go down this route with their latest fling, this fucking Mayor Pete, I'm not voting for this fucking Mayor Pete. And I'm not voting for Donald Trump. If I have to write in Chairman fucking Mao, that's what I'll do, but I'm not voting for Mayor Pete. I don't want another fucking flash-in-the-pan, 37-year-old mayor from some bumfuck goddamn town in fucking Indiana. I want someone from Washington who can fucking take care of business. A battle-hardened goddamn fucking warrior who knows how to get things done. And this fucking guy, I mean, he reminds me of the guy that runs our plant. He's 35 fucking years old. He's going to micromanage everybody right down to the T because he's got all the fucking answers. And then you got Elizabeth Warren, who he'll tear to fucking shreds. Kamala Harris, who's no one's fucking heard of from around here. No one fucking cares to hear of from around here. Bernie Sanders, you know, who 99.9% of the people that I live are like, oh my goodness, he's still running for president. I mean, we went down that road once. He looks like a fucking lunatic. I mean, I'm just giving you what people think. I'm not saying I feel this exact way about all these people, but we have to win a general election. And then after the general election, we have to make America have some progress and maintain power for long enough, not to be greedy about it, but maintain power long enough to continually implant an agenda the way the Republican Party has done for the last 2 or 3 decades. And that is the one area that they've mastered that this party cannot seem to ever understand. I mean, I've been a supporter of Biden's for a long time, and I've said before that in a general election, he will bring Trump's rhetoric, but he will do it with integrity, not with the shameful acts that, you know, Trump puts into the mix, where he just acts like a completely classless individual. I mean, Joe Biden will box within the rules of the game, and he can make it work.
Now,
but I don't see these other people as electable. And I know nobody likes to hear it, but I mean, that's the way I look at it.
When you get a chance, I'd like you to go look at the front of Drudge tonight, because I would show it to you, only if I put it up, you can't see it, okay? But it is a picture of the Orlando Stadium, which holds about, 20,000 people, was it? Something like that? Completely packed, like it's... you know, who's that reverend that's on TV on Sundays, who has his mega church? It looks like that. And the headline, of course, from Drudge is MAGA Mega Orlando, Trump stages greatest show yet. That's what it's become. Now, those 20,000 people could all vote for Trump, and that ain't going to get him elected. But nevertheless, that's what we're going to have to put up with in this campaign. It is going to become a big show.
Yeah.
Yes, Tom.
Well, just to answer Josh, and I'll just say to you, Josh, what I just said to Patrick, especially you're in Ohio, you're in a swing state. If you don't vote for the Democratic nominee, you are voting for Trump. And just recognize that, okay?
I'm fully aware of that. I mean, that's fine.
Okay, that means you're perfectly fine with losing the Supreme Court for the next several
next 4 decades.
Yeah, because the next president is going to be choosing one, maybe probably 2 Supreme Court justices. So we've lost the Supreme Court. So if you support unions, forget the unions. If you support the environment,
no. Look, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be attacked with the continual liberal line that I have to go down that road and conform to everything they believe in, because I'm just telling you, there are a lot of things that I believe in that the Democratic Party is getting away from, and people in my area are getting away from. And I am one of those Democratic voters that was left behind in the last cycle and didn't vote for Trump because I don't believe in that far on the other end of the spectrum. But they've got to get back to talking to some people like myself, you know, and I'm just telling you, the Mayor Pete thing is just going to evolve into a bunch of horse shit about who goes to the I can tell you where they're going to take it. Who goes to the bathroom where, and all this gender identity. I mean, they're going to forget. Yeah, do I support unions? Yes. And I support a Democratic nominee who's going to actually be able to do something for them instead of getting himself torn to shreds so that he can't get elected, in which case nothing will get done for them. I'm going to preempt it by saying, if you, as a party, nominate someone who cannot defeat Trump, you all voted for Trump. I mean, you know, I'm not going to be led down the liberal road of, you know, well, if you don't vote for our nominee and you don't do the things that we do, then, you know, you're not with us. You're part of the problem. Well, there are some middle Americans. There are some middle-aged white Americans who have a little bit of education and who sweat at work and take a shower when they get home, who are sick and tired of being lectured to by the left, and that's exactly what we got last time, and that's exactly what we're getting this time.
So you thought, excuse me. So you thought that nominating Hillary Clinton, we were being lectured by the left?
No, I thought that Hillary Clinton would have been the nominee with a lot more support and defeated Donald Trump if we hadn't had such a divided season beforehand between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I mean, the left has got this, it's the same symptoms that the right suffered from, a few decades ago. They just haven't found their way yet. I mean, there's still this split within this party of people like myself and probably people like yourself. And that's okay. They're allowed to have their own, ideas and agenda on where the party goes. I'm just saying, if I sit here on my TV and I say, I don't like Trump, everybody knows that. And this Mayor Pete guy shows up and I have my own reasons for saying nope, nope, and nope. And if he is the nominee and I don't want to vote for either one of them, nobody is going to tell me why that's wrong. I can vote for anybody that I want to vote for.
Well, something, I agree with you to that extent, Josh, that to say that if you don't vote, that you're voting for Trump. And there's part of me that says not voting should be a vote in and of itself. Like none of these people appeal to me. And you don't have that. I wish that on the ballot we had none of the above. And if none of the above won, we'd have to hold the election again.
Yeah. I've actually voted for that. They had it on the California ballot of none of the above, and it lost. So, but that's the reality. This is what we've got. Yeah. And I'll just say it. I'll say it clearly. People who really take it that not supporting the Democratic nominee are not really, you're one part you're saying how dangerous this man is in Washington, and that you want to go ahead and allow him the possibility of another 4 years.
Yeah. Listen, let me go.
We are at the brink.
Yeah.
Let
me go to
war with Iran.
Let me go to Patrick quickly because he had his hand up, and then we'll make him the final word on the whole thing.
Well, the vote of none of the above is the write-in candidate. And that's what I'll probably do this election time, because I won't be voting for Trump. There won't be another Republican that could beat him. I mean, we know that. Even if Pence went up against him, there aren't enough Republicans that would support Pence to go against him. But I'm going to write it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there is our theme song. Wow. It's been nice tonight. It's been good. Good, solid discussion. And I love all of you. But let me just, first of all, thank the following people. Josh, thank you so much tonight. Tom, glad to hear from you. By the way, it's a feel-free night again tomorrow night if you're interested. Jeff, thank you. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Charlie Wallace. Always a pleasure having you here. Why don't you all give a big wave goodbye, and I'll wave back, okay? There they go, ladies and gentlemen. That's our citizen panel for tonight. And I'm going to close off the Skype lines here so the next program can use it, which is, of course, The Intersection with Jack Bishop, who can be heard over most of this same GabNet station with The Intersection. So be sure to stick around for him and call him. We'll be back again tomorrow night. First of all, we have the franchise MC. He does a sports show called The Arena. Then it's Damian Chaplin with his brand new computer. And then I'll be back again tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her to please close the window so I don't have to put up with the pollen. And tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye, everybody.